Hello class, my name is Michael Garrity and I wanted to discuss the Battle of Trenton for public history. After defeat in New York, Long Island, and Fort Lee, New Jersey, George Washington hit a major crossroads and desperately needed a victory. After fleeing the British from New York and New Jersey, George Washington found himself in Pennsylvania, right across the Delaware near Newtown, Pennsylvania. George Washington very much wanted to attack, and he wanted to increase morale. He knew that his army was falling apart. There are people that were questioning his leadership abilities, and so he was looking at vulnerable spots to attack, and he found Trenton, the outpost with 1,500 Hessians, commanded under Colonel Raw. Rawl did not believe that the Americans were a capable fighting force and greatly underestimated them. After crossing the Delaware on Christmas Day, George Washington and his troops moved quietly through the night on a 9-mile trek in freezing cold conditions. There were troops that had to fall out, some that died. I think there are a few casualties from frostbite as well. So it was a very torturous trek, and they did not have the clothing or supplies needed for basically a hike through the wilderness in mid-December during the snow, and I believe there was a snowstorm as well during that night. Unbeknownst to Washington, an American raiding party had attacked the Hessians the night before, but were repulsed. This actually increased the confidence in Colonel Rawl, the Hessian commander, and he did not believe that the Americans would attack, even though there were some spies in Washington's camp that came over and told them that there was an imminent attack. This greatly frustrated Washington. He wanted the element of surprise to be there, but fortunately it was still there. When they came to the camp at 8 a.m., they were surprised to see them all sleeping. They were still sleeping in their barracks, including Colonel Rawl. So they had the element of surprise, and they surrounded the camp on all sides. So they basically created a pincer movement around the whole encampment. The Americans had significant advantage of firepower at the time, and it was just too much to bear for the Hessians. The Hessians, I believe 500, retreated to Bordentown, New Jersey, just a few miles north of Trenton, and 500 laid down their arms and surrendered. Approximately 30 were killed in action. There were no Americans killed in action, just a few casualties. George Washington actually suffered some badly rattled hands, I guess, from a musket, and I believe it was the 5th president, James Monroe, got hit by a musket ball in the chest, and he was able to survive. There are different interpretations of the battle. Some historians believe that the outcome of this battle was a turning point during the war. Enlistment skyrocketed after, and the American spirit was very much so charismatic after that. Other historians attribute Washington's leadership style and effective communication. He's known as a hard disciplinarian. In fact, on the 9-mile trek to Trenton, he threatened to basically execute anybody that would give up the element of surprise. So he was very much, a hard man, but he knew what was at stake, and it was American freedoms and liberties. Washington made sure of combat readiness and support, and these historians attribute his communication, his leadership styles to the enlistment growth and the great turnaround of the American Revolution. So I've actually been to the Battle of Trenton. I grew up in New Jersey, and I was there for a field trip. So I've been there a few times, and there's a Trenton Battle Monument, which was created early 20th century. And this is basically the site where the American Army was positioned. And it was the high ground, so it was just excellent position for the artillery to fire on the Hessians. There's the old barracks museum as well, and this still provides tours and interpretations of old colonial life and artifacts, weapons, stuff like that. So every December they hold an event, commemorate the Battle of Trenton. I believe it's December 26th every year, so it's very special. There's a lot of history there, and obviously it's a very significant part of American history. But thank you.